Welcome to your best bets U.S. Open Week, third major of the year at LA Country Club this week. We're going to talk about it tonight, briefly review the Canadian Open, and talk about just golf in general and see if we have any further thoughts on the PGA Tour Live merger that we talked about earlier last week. Joining me once again, Johnny Strouser. Johnny, did I see you on the 14th hole at the rink today, or was that just a lookalike?
That could have been me and everything. And I used to know the most of the lyrics to the Canadian national anthem, which first of all is a very good, very good national anthem.
Good anthem.
But God, every time they had to sing it, every time a Canadian player stepped up to the tee, was got a little annoying. But I don't think that was me. But I'm from Michigan, so people joke with me that they think that I go to, I'm Canadian, but I am most certainly not. Even though I have to drive south from my house, from my parents' house, to get to Canada, I'm as American as they can be.
I was gonna say maybe Michiganders get adopted as Canadians. I don't know, but what was worse than them singing the anthem every time was CBS lingering on the coverage while they got through the anthem multiple times for Corey Connors, Adam Hadwin, then later on Nick Taylor, and then also horrible was just, and I don't know since you were working, but just an unending amount of hockey references throughout the coverage, especially by Colt Knost. And I like Colt Knost, but he was especially terrible today, and he was getting a lot of flack on Twitter for being terrible, and I agreed with it. I was just like, can we move on to like another thing, another like, give me something else? But that's really all they had.
Well, you know how golf coverage loves to beat something to death as much as they can. Like,
Yeah,
not sure if you know this, but Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas are childhood buddies
right.
that played in golf tournaments together. That may have been mentioned. Just like I didn't actually have the volume up, so didn't have the privilege of hearing all of the hockey references. But whether you like hockey or whether you hate hockey, when they use the terminology probably at wit's end, it's got to be aggravating. But you know without that, though, I mean, it ended up being for a tournament that really doesn't get a whole lot of publicity, or I guess respect here in the United States. It's kind of an off week type event. You know, I thought the golf tournament was pretty damn good. I thought it was pretty cool to see how passionate the Canadian fans were, and then end up seeing a Canadian golfer in Nick Taylor win that, and that was the first time in 50 some years that a Canadian golfer had won the Canadian Open. So pretty neat, and the whole story, the whole event, especially that finish of it was quite astounding.
Yeah, it was a really good tournament. I mean, the back nine. I mean, I guess the front nine started with 8, 9, 10 guys that had a legitimate chance of winning, and then it filtered out to a few, and then it filtered out to just a couple. I do know one thing: Tommy Fleetwood cannot play that 18th hole, as weird and quirky and awful as it is. I mean, he really should have won the golf tournament. I think he was minus 400 standing on 18T. I guess the assumption was he could hit 4 iron, and two putt for the win, and he could not do that. He made poor decisions, he executed poorly, and I really felt like he gave that one went away. And unfortunately, I was on the betting side of Tommy Fleetwood once again, and I thought we had this one. I really did. He birdied 16 and 17, and I'm like, okay, this is it. It's all set up, and just couldn't get it done there on the 72nd hole. Unfortunately, I had him in a parlay. I think I got him basically at 50 to 1, which was a good number. But Nick Taylor, actually under the radar, really really good season. Kind of looking at his numbers and his finishes throughout the year. I mean, he had that runner up to Scotty at the Phoenix Open. I think that was already kind of forgotten. Some other top tens, a lot of top 25s. So I think he's top 10 in the FedEx Cup standings, which I think at this point, and we're far enough in the season where I think he'll probably be in the Tour Championship. So good on Nick Taylor. Pretty good player for a while. He's been on the tour for a while, but this is I mean, this was a pretty awesome moment, I do have to say. I mean, even on the losing side of the bet, I mean, it was very, very cool watching that happen. Um, so good on him. We're recording this Sunday night as opposed to Monday night, so we got some of the immediate reaction. But I think to me the highlight was Adam Hadwin sprinting on the green with champagne to celebrate with his friend and just getting bulldozed by Ray Lewis, the security guard, yet holding on to the bottle while he went down to the ground. I was pretty impressed by it. The whole thing was amazing.
Well, I mean, yeah, and anybody who didn't see it, go to Twitter, I'm sure it'll be on YouTube. Just Google, 2023 Canadian Open, Adam Hadwin, and watch this open field tackle. I mean, you really have to, the security guard just really had a good form. He had good recognition, first of all, and I think that's an underrated part of that tackle. He didn't have a credential on, and to be able to recognize of a long haired dude in a hat and a hoodie not having a credential coming at the winner, that's like Madden 9, like 99 rating on the awareness. So first of all, good on the security guard of doing that, and then to get him squared up like that, where he squared up his shoulders and his hips, it was just a form tackle,
Yeah.
and didn't let him go, and just made sure he just wrestled him to the ground. And he went a little bit high on him, but I don't mind that, because the security guard looked pretty tall there. So it was using his good form, the height and everything to get the guy down, and that was just pretty amazing there. So that was my Tony Romo type analysis of the tackle. But pretty crazy moment though, to see he's just going out there to celebrate with his buddies, had a big bottle of champagne, and just gets floored. I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen that before, but
No.
pretty funny there. And hopefully that turns out to where, it doesn't turn into like a weird or ugly moment, down the road or anything like that. Like where Bernie, the Heat mascot, got laid out by, Conor McGregor at halftime of the game 5, whatever it was, game 4,
Um,
something like that, where he's going to ER. But yeah, pretty funny moment there. And the I told you the call by Jim Nance, with them singing the Canadian anthem. I think he said what, glorious and free or something like that, when he buried it, and I was like, that's that's
um,
that's kind of creative there. And then just casually mentions Adam Hadwin getting decleated on the 18th green there. So um, pretty cool though to see the whole finish and everything like that. And I know we're going to eventually, one of these days, talk about, and I about Live, and you like to compare it to Live. This was a very, the Canadians like the event. It's just a whatever on the American side. But to see the fans come out, and the cheering for Nick Taylor and the other Canadians, and the finish of that, we were talking about, we're a mediocre golf course. The 18th hole was not a good hole, and you had Fleetwood, who's a household name among golf fans, but he's not a John Rahm or Scotty Scheffler type thing. But to have that kind of a finish um, is pretty cool stuff, and that's the stuff that the PGA Tour is always, hopefully always, going to continue to have, and to that they can possess, is the where you can earn your victory, and the victories mean so much, rather than the guaranteed type money that may carry less passion with the golf tournaments. But all in all, pretty cool Sunday, I thought, for a week before a major championship. And I'm looking forward to this, taking this type of excitement for tournament golf, and bringing it over to the U.S. Open, which starts this week.
I'm glad you mentioned the live reference and the finish of this tournament, and just kind of how that compares, because I did think of that right away. Actually, I'm like, this was unbelievable energy and excitement, and just like pure joy and happiness. It sounds kind of cheesy, but it really, really was from the fans. And it was kind of cool also to see, like, Shane Lowry and Hatton and Justin Rose out there rooting for Fleetwood, trying to get his first PGA Tour win. On the other side, Hadwin and Connors rooting for the Canadian. It kind of had a Ryder Cup feel, a little bit President's Cup feel, whatever. But I did think that I'm like, you can't put a price on something like this to a Canadian player actually winning it for the first time in forever. I mean, if you replace Nick Taylor with Corey Connors or Adam Hadwin or I don't know, Taylor Pendrith, whoever, one of the better Canadian players, I mean, I'm sure they would say it's up there with the majors in their mind. Um, so very, very cool. I think it was a win, a mini win for the tour after the week that has been with all the news and the merger and some of the negative feedback with obviously Jay Monahan and just kind of the uncertainty of what is going on and what is going to happen and how are things going to be. No one really knows. This was nice to enjoy at least for a day. But we got to move forward. We got to talk about. I think something you and I we've been talking about for a couple of years, and that's the U.S. Open at LA Country Club. I mean, this I think for golf course or golf architecture nerds, and I think you and I are at least somewhat in that class. We are so excited to see this golf course on TV for the U.S. Open. We've seen it a couple times in the last decade. Walker Cup was there, I think, was it 2017? Is that right? With that, like the Morikawa team and Zalatoris and Scotty were on that team. But I mean, I think this was announced in 2014 that the U.S. Open was going to be here. Just in the last 2-3 years, I think the excitement has really built. After you've seen videos and photos come out, there's a great 20-minute video with amazing drone shots, flyovers on the fried egg. If anyone follows that, Andy Johnson, he's great at this, and they do a great job of really showcasing the course and just giving you the ins and outs of specific holes and really just building the excitement of it. So I would highly suggest that. Your thoughts on the golf course before we get into the field and what it means as the third major of the year?
I did a lot of research on it this winter, read as much as I could on it because I was fascinated. I do remember watching that Walker Cup, about 6 years ago, and just being smitten with how the golf course looks. And one of the things when I first looked at it, it looked like a lot of the Australian sandbelt courses, like Royal Melbourne and all the other ones that they've got within like a 15-mile radius or whatever it is of each other. And they're just, to me, those just so pretty looking. The bunkering and the manicured areas, and this golf course is going to be, in my opinion, one of the better ones that we're going to see in any major championship. And you could throw out Augusta National because it's there every year, and we just know how incredible that is. But just as far as, to me, eye pleasing and challenging as we'll get on any U.S. Open or PGA Championship, just because of how it is. It's got wider fairways. I don't think it's ridiculously long, although I think they've lengthened it in places, but it's not. It's a second shot golf course, and I like those because that means green complexes are very very creative. It's got angled greens that aren't coming straight in. You've got to look at that because you've got bunkers that are short right or bunkers that are short left, and you've got to think about different ways to come into it. So it's going to have the wide fairways, and it's got to where players are going to have to kind of play the golf course backwards. They're going to have to see where the pin's at, and they're going to place their tee shot there. And what do we talk about just a week ago here when we were talking about Riverbend? So I'm not saying it is Riverbend, but I'm saying just the type of golf course that you'll see is where you've got to play it a certain way. And so people who play Riverbend can understand what I'm saying is you got to come in with certain angles there. So the golf course, from what I've heard on Twitter, for guys that have arrived early, is they say it's very, very fair. It's probably not going to be like a Shinnecock where they can push the push it to where it's borderline not, but it'll be very, very playable. It'll be very, very hard. But the golf course, like I said, to me, just reminds me of those sandbelt courses, which are great with the bunkering and the angles, and I'm looking forward to it because like I said, being a second shot golf course, I like the golfers, whether to bet on them or to watch them. I love the golfers that are great iron players. I just think that's a fantastic quality to have as a golfer, and I just like watching those guys. So for me, this is like the U.S. Open, the event of the last decade or whatever that I've wanted to watch, and I can't wait to see it.
Helps that it's in a prime time as well. We've talked about
Yes.
the our love of the prime time U.S. Open. So that's going to be awesome. A lot of what you said, I've read or seen some of the similar things or similar comparisons. George Thomas designed, so he also designed Riviera Country Club, one of the, I mean, jewels in our country as far as golf courses. The redesign in 2010, led by Gil Hant, who has proven to be one of the best modern day designers or renovators, whatever you want to title him as now. Um, Widen the fairways, like you said, but I think it's key. It's good to know that a lot of these holes, and if you watch the video that I mentioned or others that are out there, it's sure there's 75-yard fairways, but it's precision and knowing where to be in some of those fairways. Hole 13 is going to be, I think, the hardest hole of the week. It's playing over 500 yards. Obviously, it's a par four, but if you're on the left side of that fairway, you have a clear shot or a clear vision into the green. But if you kind of miss it to the center or the right side of the fairway, it trundles down into this big valley where have a completely blind second shot into the green, and it's demanding. And I mean, it probably adds a half a shot to the hole just by being on the left side of the fairway versus the right. And I think there's a lot of holes where placement of your tee shot in the fairway is critical. Um, I think on the bingo card of things you'll hear this week, Baranka is one of those words. You've seen this at Riviera as well. I actually I actually wanted to make sure I was spelling it right today, so I googled Baranka, so that's in my phone now. Um, but when they did the redesign, they went back in because um, LACC had become too predictable when you hit it in there that you were going to get a reasonable lie. And actually, part of the redesign was making it more rugged, variable lies. So you could get a good lie in there, but you could also have something close to unplayable or really tough to manage where you just have to chop it out. So I'm really interested to see how that plays out. Fascinating placement of the golf course, though. It's kind of like right in the one of the busiest areas of LA, kind of in a canyon. So there's a lot of holes that come up and then they come back down. I think the natural terrain of the course, it just looks awesome. You had a great comparison. I had some feels of Augusta. I mean, with some of these uneven lies in the fairway, some of the roll offs, short or long of the green. Number 6, I don't know if you've seen that hole, the short par 4 where it's blind tee shot with the tree. You could lay up, you could go for the green, but fascinating strategy hole. But yeah, I think it's going to be awesome. I think it's going to look great on TV, and I think it could prove to be one of the more memorable U.S. Opens we've had in the last 20, 25 years, because I expect the cream to rise to the crop this week. Cream rise to the top this week because I really think over the course of 72 holes, we're going to see the better players win here. I don't know. So, any other thoughts before we move on to the field and the odds and our thoughts of
Yeah,
what we're going to see from a player perspective this week?
yeah. I mean, you're right. A lot. You're absolutely right in all that. And you view it. The U.S. Open is the ultimate test where it tests every club in the bag, and it's going to really, it's not going to promote necessarily a single style or I guess your your irons versus your woods and everything because they want everything to to be affected there. One of the things that's going to be very interesting is, yes, I said there's the wide fairways, and you mentioned that there's a lot of slopes in those fairways. So they're going to play smaller, play with much less room, but also that rough. Most of the time when they grow deep rough at these US Open golf courses, primarily they're going to be in the Midwest or Northeast. They're going to have either bent grass or like a Poana grass rough that is thick. This is actually Bermuda rough, and it's only going to be about 4 inches. But Bermuda rough, when it grows long, grows like spongy but wiry, and the ball is too heavy for it to sit on top of it. So they're going to have the most ridiculous shots out of this rough. And one of my favorite things to watch each year is like the weekend before the US Open starts is the ball drop. You know, what they do is they always got to do it. The US Open actually did it this year. Usually it's some of the
Yeah.
players that do it. And they drop 3 balls from just like
Yep.
12 inches, and they every single one of them sunk to the bottom. So, it's gonna test the every part of the game. You got to hit the fairways, you got to hit the irons, because the green side chip shots are going to be tough too. So you're going to have to chip the ball well, and you're going to have to putt. So, it's just going to be one of those things that is it's going to be a typical U.S. Open, and we're just going to get the views, and we're going to get the whole LA thing. And I think it's just going to be, I think it's going to be fantastic. I think it's going to be utterly fantastic. And Saturday night, we're going to be watching the back nine starting at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, that they're going to take it to basically 11 p.m. I think that's going to be cool as hell. And
Yeah.
we're set up for a week here.
Yep. And one other thing I like about this course, and this is a lot like Riviera, is that handshake first hole. Like, hey, here you go. Here's a short par 5, nothing to it. Go ahead, you can make your birdie. But I'm gonna come at you on the second hole, and I'm gonna throw like a 505-yard par 4 at you, and you're probably gonna make bogey. um, so again, some of these designers, they just kind of have those similar tendencies from course to course. This is just like Riv with that opening hole. I think 16, 17, 18 is going to be just a fucking brute. From what I've seen,
Yeah.
I mean, you will be happy if you had the lead coming down the stretch to make 3 pars, you'll win, because I don't think anyone's going to be chasing you down on those holes. Um, Storylines coming in this week. It's kind of been dominated, obviously, by the larger news with the Live PGA Tour merger. I don't want to say Live PGA Tour merger. I want to say PGA Tour with the PIF merger. But from a player perspective, we're coming off 2 majors where stars have won: John Rahm the Masters and Brooks Koepka the PGA Championship. Um, what's 1 or 2 storylines you're looking at, or if it's a player trying to get his first, or someone trying to get their second, third, fourth, whatever it is? Who are you looking at as far as guys that you're looking to see how they're going to perform under the spotlight this week?
Well, one guy, he's at the top of the board, but I think he's definitely worth talking about with just how well he's playing tee to green is Scotty Scheffler. Can he turn this unheard of ball striking into a win? I mean, like you said, last week on the podcast, that he could have easily won 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 of the last events with how well he's played by just being an average putter and
Right.
getting that putter going. So it's whether he can ride this, just this phenomenal run of strokes gained tee to green. Can he do it? Can he get that win? Can he make some putts? Can he just be an average putter, and is that good enough to win? And it seems like it would be. So yes, he's already won a major championship, but this is a guy in his prime playing as good as pretty much any golfer has in our generation here. Can he get that win there? So that's a big one for me, is can he justify that 7-1 number and win another major championship there? And then the other one, we could Rory's going to be an obvious one, but we're not going to talk about that because he's always going to be the story, and there's just so much going on with him on and off the golf course. But one guy who I've got to start seeing something from. And I mean, we're both shocked that he hasn't performed is Patrick Cantlay. He is a UCLA guy. This
Mhm.
is his area. He's a SoCal dude. Went to college, here. At some point, he's going to have to show up and you know and win. I mean, yes, contend, but actually win a major championship. I think some of the guys you look at, they're good players, and they, like a Xander Schauffele is a phenomenal player, but you know, he'll almost luck into a major at some point, something like that. But I think Patrick Cantlay, with as hot as we've seen him, when he won the FedEx Cup a couple years ago, to his good play as a younger player, when he won in Las Vegas, and had a lot of great stretches of golf. He just, anytime a big event comes, it's just not there. And I think this is a perfect opportunity that he's got to start showing up to these, to be taken seriously for as a guy. Will he ever win a major championship? So those are the two. And I mean, you could look at there's countless guys. You could look at Brooks Koepka, Big Bad Brooks. Is he going to come back and contend here? You could look at Morikawa. Can he make a putt? Look at Finau. Is he going to break free? But the
Mm,
Scheffler and the Cantley one, those are the two that really kind of jumped out at me.
mm. I was gonna group together Cantlay, Xander, and Finau as this entity of great American players that haven't broken through. And in some aspects, this golf course seems like it would be a fit for all of those guys, at least parts of their game. But yeah, we talked about it. We've talked about Cantlay multiple times. I think I railed on Finau after I swore the PGA was a great setup for him, and he did not play well. Swore him off after that, but I mean, these guys, you start thinking like, okay, well, the clock is they're not old, but they're not like mid 20s. I think they're all over 30. Maybe Xander's just under 30 now, but I mean, I'm telling you, like the next generation comes and they start winning, the Morikawas and um Schefflers. I mean, so they've already proven that they can win the big one, and these guys are still on the clock. So I'm watching them this week again. Max Homa, it's like too clean of a storyline, right? I mean, to be a LA guy, win a US Open in LA, and really we just haven't seen Max contend really, period, in any major. Seeing him be around on the weekend would be fun. It would be so much fun, even if he doesn't win, just to um, I think he brings in more viewers. He brings in more of a mainstream audience a little bit now, and he's just a fun guy to root for. So I'm rooting for Max. You know, just for the game of golf, I think that'll be fun. But yeah, you mentioned a couple. Rory, I mean, we could talk ad nauseum about him, but I don't think there's really much more needs to be said. I mean, if anything, though, I was thinking about this today. I mean, this whole thing that happened this last week could be a net positive for Rory, though. I think he doesn't have to repeatedly answer questions about Liv at his pressers anymore. Um, he kind of gave his thoughts and feelings this week, and it's not going to stop, but I think it will stop, and he can kind of just focus on the golf, and he doesn't have to be this front man for the tour any longer. Um, so maybe there's some pressure off. I don't think he's necessarily sharp. We can talk about that when we get to the odds, though. Um, Other than that, though, yeah, I really do think we're looking at. I mean, it sounds like a broken record, but if you listen to our first two major podcasts, I think we probably said we're looking at a star that's going to win, and I do think it's that type of week again. I mean, I think we looked at recent majors last 5 6 years. There really hasn't been any flukes. There hasn't been a I don't know who's the ultimate fluke major winner in the last 30 years. I don't
Like
know.
Steve Jones or something like that.
Steve Jones. There you go. Yeah. Or Todd Hamilton's, that kind of
Yeah.
thing, right? That would
Yeah.
that would be the ultimate, but I just don't think we're seeing that this week. Um, should we get to the odds?
Yeah. Yeah. We got a lot of guys. I want to talk about a lot of guys this week.
Yeah, we got a lot to get to. I'm going to share the screen here. I got odds checker up, and I do this because I've noticed a lot of variance in some of the odds this week. Um, we already talked about Scotty leading off the odds here. You can get him as good as plus 750 on FanDuel. Brooks is at plus 1100 on multiple books. John Rahm at plus 1100 on FanDuel. Rory at 12 on FanDuel. Looks like FanDuel is kind of the winner here. Cantlay and Hovland at 17. Xander at 20. Oh, Zalatoris is still in a couple books. You want to grab him at 22. That's kind of odd. So those are the guys that are under 30 largely. You might find some other guys that are under 30 on some books, but for purposes of tonight, though that's the group, what, 4 7 guys here. So I know you said you had a future on Scotty. Is there any reason why he won't be in contention this weekend?
It's because if he's not in contention, he just won't be sharp with either his driver or his irons. The putting is gonna always be just what it is, and like I said, we just have to ask for average. We just have to ask for average. But if he's a little bit off with his irons, I've noticed in the last, I would say since the end of last major season, so into this season, he's becoming more and more frustrated when parts of his game aren't quite there, and not sure if that totally affects him a lot, but I think it's enough. You see that outward frustrations when things aren't quite going his way because of what he expects out of his golf game. You can't have that consistently in the United States Open. It's the ultimate test of golf for 72 holes, and you've got to be sharp for all 4 days there. So that is why that was the only thing that would kind of concern me. I did want to get him in there because I was worried about him going to like 6 to 1. I did bet him on a future a few weeks ago because I just was okay with where he was, liked his ball striking. I said, you know what, worst case is I can maybe bet him a win bet with a top 5 insurance and still get that at plus odds. And DraftKings has him at plus 60 on a or plus 160 on a top 5 bet. So if he's playing solid, good golf for Scotty Scheffler, there's a real good chance that he'll still end up there in the top 5. But the question for you is I know you generally don't like numbers that low on guys and taking chances. With it being a U.S. Open though, and seeing the tee to green numbers that he's put up, will he make your card at all?
I thought about this today, and I kind of think he's going to win. So yes,
Yeah.
it goes. Sometimes we talk about these numbers so often, and sometimes we say if that guy wins at, I think we said this week with Rory at Canadian Open at 5 to 1. Hey, if he wins, he wins. I won't be part of it because that number's so short. But majors are a little bit different. We tend to invest a little bit more money into the majors because it's fun to be part of that scene. If you hit a winner or first round leader, even top 5s, top 10s, it's a little bit more excitement. And I just don't see a path where Scotty plays much differently than he's been playing the last 6 8 weeks. Again, I mean, I looked at Data Golf today. I mean, he's having one of the best ball striking seasons of the past 25 years. And I mean, we're talking Tiger 2000 type of comparisons. So I don't take that lightly. I don't see any reason why LACC wouldn't be a great fit for him. If he misses greens, he has a great ability to get up and down. He's creative around the greens. We saw this with his win at Augusta last year. So I love Scotty this week, and yeah, I probably will bet him at the 7.5 to 1. And again, if you want to get some sort of reasonable payout, then you got to invest a little more, and then that's okay. I think it's worth it. So yes, I'm on Scotty this week. I'm just following the trends. I'm following the numbers, and at some point he just can't keep putting this badly. We talk about putting being having a lot of variance and week to week, and well, it's not worked that way for him. But I'm hoping it kind of evens out this week. What about Brooks at 11-1 on multiple books? I mean, back to back majors seems crazy for some, but he's done it a couple times already in his career, coming off of his fifth major win. I feel bad. We didn't even talk about him really the week before the PGA podcast. I don't even know if we brought up his name, and made us look pretty silly. Major Brooks seems back. What do you think?
Yes, and I actually bet him either during the final round of the PGA or right after the PGA finished, because after seeing Major Brooks back, I mean, in my years of watching golf, which is 30 plus years, he's about the only guy. Him and Tiger are the only ones I'd feel comfortable to say, yeah, they could win any and all majors that they play in. So, you know, he's not going to get the warm up week with a live event like he did before the PGA. So there was no, I don't think there was a live event, was there? I don't think so. I didn't see anything.
Before the PGA?
No, but like this week, was there? There wasn't a
Oh,
live event this
no,
weekend, was there?
no,
Okay,
there wasn't.
I don't. Okay, so with that being
You
said,
don't
though,
follow it that closely?
no, I'm sorry, I don't. I don't. I just happen to. I turn, when I go to see Buffy the Vampire Slayer on the CW and it's not on and the lives on, that's when I know. So,
That's right.
um, but anyways, no,
Uh,
I'm going to bet him. I already did actually. So I'm going to bet
yeah.
him, and I will probably plus money at a top 10. I mean, the dude's back, and he may miss the cut or may not play well, and you gotta take that. But 11-1 isn't great. Normally, you don't bet these guys to win back-to-back majors, but Brooks Koepka is different. And years ago, when we first started doing this podcast, the rule was is never fade Brooks in a major, and we are back, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I you are most likely right. I probably won't be on him just because I think I'll funnel my money a lot into Scotty, and maybe two other guys that are under 40-1, but it wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me. I don't expect it, but also wouldn't shock me. And um, I he has. I couldn't be more stunned by this resurgence this year. After I mean, we kind of both wrote him off, and couldn't be more impressed. John Rahm at 11-1 on FanDuel, 8 or 9 on many books. It just seems like something's a little bit off. And I guess for him, it's the putting mostly as well. I mean, I was at the Memorial. I saw him play. I didn't see too much wrong with the ball striking. It's not quite to the Scheffler level, but um, it's I for some reason I just don't. I'm not feeling it as a Rom week. What do you think?
Well, no, I agree with you there. It just doesn't. Maybe there's some burnout. Doesn't feel like he's as sharp, and looking at his last few events, there isn't a whole lot to get super excited about at 9 and 10-1. It's hard to say. I don't know. Did you see that little clip from Matt Adams of the Golf Channel
Yes,
where he talked about a former number one player was about to sign with Live?
yes,
He's the only
that had won multiple majors.
he's the only one that fits that category
It
of a
was,
recent number
yeah,
one with multiple majors. So I
yeah.
don't know if there was a lot going on here in the last couple of months with some things going on behind the scenes that we aren't aware of. But the golf game has been incredible since January 1st. And at some point, we're now 6 months down the line. We could say, you know what, he's still great, but you know, if looking at Scotty versus John Rahm, I'm going to take Scotty. So I don't think I'm going to actually bet Rahm. I was thinking about betting several of the top five guys because I think where this is going to come from is under plus is 30-1 and less for the winner. But I just right now that value at between 9 and 11-1 isn't quite there as much as it was, a month ago, obviously, when he was just dominating.
Hmm. I agree. Yeah, I can't put my finger on it, but it doesn't feel like it's gonna happen this week. But again, it's also John Rahm, and he's awesome at golf, and he could come out and shoot 5 under the first day and just put on a tour de force. So you can't discount these guys when it's just their week, but it just feels like something's missing. I don't necessarily want to go through every player, but I just want to make that note about Rory that I feel like, and it sounds silly to say, but 3 straight top tens, led the Memorial after 54 holes, was in contention for the Canadian Open, but he just doesn't feel like the sharp Rory that maybe he was at times last year. Um, and so I'm probably not going to be on Rory this week either. Um, and I don't know, just something kind of worries me about like his major performances this year as well, in conjunction with what we've seen on the golf course, not finishing on the last couple Sundays. Thoughts on Rory?
Yeah, I think burnout, and whether he admits it or whether he is burned out is a question. But playing that many weeks in a row, like you said, playing good golf. I really thought we were gonna maybe see something after Saturday's round when he kind of went off on that back nine yesterday, but really did nothing today. I think it's just kind of not going through the motions, but it's just with everything that has happened, there's just a lot going on there. But it's gonna be hard because it's Rory McIlroy, and it's just like, but he hasn't quite hit that number to where it's like, okay, we got to bet him. So what I'm going to do is each morning here, I got a little sticky note, and I'm going to put it on my bathroom mirror, and I'm going to get real close to it and be like, you are not going to bet Rory to win the U.S. Open this week. You are not going to do it.
I feel like
Whether
we
I
I feel like we got a long list of those kind of guys.
Well, we do, but this guy is the most.
Yeah,
This guy's the most addicting one to
it
want,
is.
because what he'll do is he'll birdie the first hole, birdie the third hole. If he gets a morning wave tee time, and you're going to be like 2 under through three, and you're just going to be like hammer a win bet and at like plus 400, and I'm going to do something that's stupid, and I'm ready for it, but I got to tell myself, I just I just can't bet him. I just can't bet him this week. I might even consider fading him if I in a matchup against maybe Scheffler or Kepka, if those two play against him. But gotta tell myself, gotta be off of Rory this week.
Fair enough. Uh, we've already talked a little bit about Cantlay and Xander. Are you on them or off of them this week?
Um, Cantley, I'll consider a win bet, but I think I'm off of him. Pretty sure I am, but the SoCal thing just seems, the LA thing just draws me in. So that's I'm still on the fence about that. I don't hate it, but I
Yeah,
thought he was going to be better at Memorial and really wasn't. He got in contention and then just absolutely wheels fell off and didn't play well over the weekend there.
yeah.
Xander Xander's this, not going to bet him on a win bet, but what can we get him at here? You can get him at plus 190 on a top 10. So you got plus money on that. And you think he does have a chance to win, plus 400 on a top five isn't bad either. So I expect him to play well, just because that's just what Xander Schauffele does. But I just, at 20-1 still, I just still don't think that's good value for him getting a win. I can't believe that he doesn't fall closer to like that 30-1, what you see, like when Bryson was still a guy, or what JT has fallen to sometimes, he just can't get to that number. He just always hovers around that 16 to 18-1.
Yeah. My short answer on both of them is I will not be part of it if they win this week. I will not be on either one of them. The one that I'm torn on is Victor at 17 on FanDuel, 16 on DraftKings. I think it helped to get a big win couple weeks ago. He's been part of the major picture, 3 straight majors going back to the Open last year. I and I know we talked about his, we feel like he graduated a little bit on the short game, but I'm not there yet with. I do think it's helped at least at the PGA with and the Memorial. Some of the short game shots are largely the same, kind of the chop it out, deep rough around the green. I still want to see how he does with this type of layout. I guess more of a Masters type around the green game this week. And a little bit of that gives me the willies, but again, I still feel like he's unlocked something, and I think there's a good chance he could continue it. So now I just got to decide: do I want to put my money on 17-1? What do you think?
Yeah, the number is maybe a smidgen short for me, but you know, he showed a lot. He showed us a lot at the PGA Championship, and then the Memorial. I mean, that's a great win right there, in and of itself. There, but if he's got a morning tee time, I'm betting him first round lead. He's going to be on my card because he could when he gets going with those irons and he can make birdies, and you could see a first round 66 or something like that ends up getting a lead there. So
Mm-hmm.
don't love him at a major championship because I think there's just a lot, he could quickly go south with that short game. So
Yeah.
no, I don't think I'll win bet him, but I think he'll play good golf this week. I think I'll look at him in a top 10 or top 20 market in addition to a first round lead bet.
Let's get to the 30 and above range, 30 to 50. And I think largely this group is made up of a lot of guys that you might normally see higher that have slid. Jordan Spieth, his best numbers at 32. Max Homa also at 32. Cam Smith at 33. Finau at 33. Colin Morikawa has slid back to 34 on FanDuel, probably because of the back injury. I would have to guess. Matt Fitzpatrick at 35-1, DJ at 40, Hatton at 40, Justin Thomas at 46-1, Hideki at 48, Bryson, Cam Young, Jason Day. And those are the ones that top out at 50. There's a lot going on in this group. I guess it's noteworthy to talk about Morikawa at 34. I don't know how concerned we are with back spasms. It sounds like the first time he's ever had them when he had to withdraw from the Memorial last round. Some sort of exercise or stretch that he was doing in the morning caused that. I've had back spasm. It is awful. Now, if it's a one-time thing and he's obviously got premium treatment and access to all that, then maybe he's fine. But that is a little bit of a worry. What are other thoughts on you have from any guys in this group that we just talked about here?
I I can't believe JT is topping out at 46-1. I
I didn't want to
mean,
start there.
I know I don't want to talk about it really,
I
but
don't
it's
either.
just one of those things that's like, dude, how can it be that? But I mean, I guess he's kind of at that point, but this golf course fits him. I mean, he's a good driver of the golf ball. He's a great iron player, and it's just can he get that putter going and make some putts there. So I see that right there. I did want to address the Morikawa thing. I'm not I'm not overly worried by the back injury. I kind of heard the same thing that it was a first time thing and it was precautionary and they figured out why it was happening. I'm more concerned about him making putts, to be completely honest, and not really tee to green there. So, and he's still hitting his irons really really well. So he's in that number where it's like it's almost an auto bet for me, at least something. Personally, what I did this week is I bet very little on the Canadian Open because I was going to save what I would normally my normal allotment and then carry it over and then use it towards US Open. So I'm going to have several in this area here, and because we're getting close to the end of where I think we're going to find a winner. So, I got to look at this real carefully, and I think Morikawa can still win. It's just coming up with an average putting week there. Um, Another guy I have I bet a long time ago was Max Homa. We had talked about him, and him and California. That's where a lot of his wins come from. So if he's going to win a major championship, this might be the best chance. But he's just got nothing behind it. So, you know, pretty good number at 32 to 1. I think it's the FanDuel book there. Um,
Yep.
32 to 1 on that is also a good number.
Yeah.
Kind of loving almost all these guys here. And then the other two I want to talk about is Tyrrell Hatton. Uh, had a unbelievable finish today, great round of golf today in Canada. Had a legit shot, and he was actually tied for the lead or the leader in the clubhouse for a little bit there at 16 under par. So he's lingering. He's playing really good golf. I don't know though, can he get through 72 holes with who Tyrrell Hatton is, but the golf shots are there and the game is there. It's so maybe you look at him in a top 10 or top 20 market, but I think he's going to make the cut. I think he's going to play well. I like him a lot this week. Don't absolutely love him as like as a lock win bet for me, where I would definitely bet him. And then the other guy is Hideki.
Mm-hmm.
He's playing better. Hopefully he's healthy. The issue that concerns me with Hideki is the health. You get these injuries that you don't really know about. They don't come out until Wednesday night or Thursday morning, and it makes it kind of tough with him. But these guys have all hit that number. Hideki, JT, Tyrrell, and Colin Morikawa are all at that number where I'm like, you know what, I got to look at firing. And beyond that, I didn't love many of the other guys. So
Okay.
I think this is where we're going to see a good chance. If not that first group that we talked about, I think this is where there's a good chance we could see a winner from this
Mhm.
group.
I mean, I think Hideki seems healthy. I mean, he led the Memorial through 2 rounds.
Hmm.
Well, he was tied, I guess, or he was up there. He was leading early in the third round, and then he dropped off. But I think he showed pretty good um, sustainability with the health, being there through 4 rounds. Um, I'm gonna shock you. I mean, I think this will legitimately surprise you. My favorite win bet, and I'm not saying he's going to win, but I'm going to automatically bet him probably tonight. Um, Jordan Spieth at 32 to 1.
I was curious of your thoughts on him. I wanted you to talk me. I actually wanted either somebody to talk me out of him or into him. So
Yeah.
I want you to talk me into him.
Well, I here's the reasons. I think we had some concerns about the wrist. Maybe going to the PGA. I'm kind of beyond that now. We've seen enough golf and good golf from him. What's kind of the knock on Jordan? Largely, it's off the tee, right? Um, he's not short, but he's not the bomber like Scotty, Rory. But he's long enough. He led the field in the PGA strokes gained off the tee that week, which to me was kind of a wow thing. At the Memorial, I don't think he had his A game, but again, he scrapped it around in a Spieth like fashion to top five it. I think this course I mentioned earlier, I see shades of Augusta. I don't think there's any guy that's been better the last decade at Augusta than Jordan Spieth. Hitting off of side hill lies, uneven lies, you have to use your creative juices a little bit more. That's where Spieth seems to thrive. We know he can scramble when he misses greens. I think he's one of the better lag putters going now. These 4 or 5 footers the last couple of years, they've been a little scary for sure. But I think we're getting a version of Spieth right now that is striking the ball really, really well. And uh, from a motivation standpoint, I think he's ready for that next step. I mean, he hasn't won a major in 6 years now, and maybe a guy like Brooks winning and getting his fifth will light a fire under these guys that haven't won one in a while and have multiple majors. So I'm in on Spieth this week. I'm also in on a similar type of game as his, a similar type of player. And I don't normally bet this guy, but I think I'm going to take a stab at Cameron Smith as well for some of the same reasons. I think
Wow.
he played pretty well at the PGA under the radar. Um, so much about the live guys. Obviously came to a head at the PGA with Brooks winning, but Cameron Smith, I think he shot 66 the last round, top 10'd it. So for a lot of the same reasons, and Cam Smith plays Augusta well, I'm really leaning into this course comp. I don't mind Smith at 33. I don't like him as much as Spieth though. To follow up on a couple of guys you mentioned, JT at 46 is it's one of the most astonishing numbers. It might be the most astonishing number since we've been doing this show since November 2020 that I can remember. It's like you see it and you don't think it's real because we're used to seeing him in majors at 12, 14, 16. So to basically be 4 times that is it's hard to swallow. But I gotta tell you, he looked really bad at the Memorial. Kind of looked lost, and you kind of wonder now if it's filtered into his thought process, his mental game. So I just don't know how you can feel good even at that number that he actually has a legitimate chance of winning. Um, I'm with you on Morikawa though. I constantly come back to him on these type of major layouts because I think we both value the same thing approach. I still think he's, if not the best, top 2 or 3, and it all comes down to just whether the guy can get the ball in the hole. Cam Young at 50 is tempting, but he just does not seem to be anywhere close right now. He was pretty bad this week at the Canadian, pretty bad at the Memorial. So I don't think you can feel great about Cam Young's game right now compared to where he was last year. 50 and above. I don't know if you've gone through and looked at anyone, circled anyone. Typically, we kind of name a couple guys that we have on our radar at that number. So who are those people for you?
Ooh, 50 to we're looking at 50 and more.
Yeah.
I am
Let me just ask you, what about Rick Fowler?
not to win, but I'm not. I don't think I'm
Right.
going to bet anybody 50 and over to win this week.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yes, absolutely on Rick. Playing great golf. He's getting there. He's working hard, and that the putter is getting better and better. The ball striking is improving. I think he's going to have a good week. I think this golf course is I think it's pretty solid. It's a pretty good setup for him. So I'm in on him. One guy I actually I considered a win bet. I take that back because I wasn't going to, but and again I always bring him up as Adam Scott. But this, like I said, I compared it to the Australian golf courses. He's the Aussie, played all those, all those golf courses. He plays Augusta very well, so it fits. And he's a phenomenal iron player and great driver of the golf ball.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's a good number, and I mean plus 550 or so as a top 10 is pretty good, and I like him. A lot of these names, we're not going to come up with these groundbreaking names because it's hard to get guys that you don't necessarily trust here in the U.S. Open. So like I'm going to say Keegan Bradley, and it's going to be like, oh God, Keegan Bradley. They freaking talk about this guy again. But Keegan Bradley, I mean,
Yeah.
he's pretty good. And even at 100 to 1, it's like, you know what? That's not too bad there. I mean, he finished what, like third place or something like that at the Country Club.
Yeah.
I know he's a Northeast guy, not a West Coast guy, but where this U.S. Open is compared to last year. But
Mm-hmm.
at that kind of a number there, you look at him in a top 20, 30, 40 market, and you could get really good plus money there. Um, go ahead with some of yours.
Um, I go back to Denny. Not to win here, but um, Data Golf has Denny McCarthy as the 20th best player in the world right now, and you're getting
Wow.
ridiculous value. You can get him as good as 125 to 1. So I'd look at the top 10 or 20 number on Denny McCarthy. Looks like top 10 plus 750, and he proved last year in the U.S. Open. I think he finished top 10 as well. So maybe he's this is I'm not making a joke. Maybe he's meant for the bigger stage. um, some of these guys are just wired that way. Um, I don't mind the Adam Scott pick. I just don't know. I don't know what else there is to say about it. I keep thinking maybe there's like a late stage second major for him, but then we get further and further into his career and it just seems less likely. Um, though outside of Denny, um, it's just tough to see any of these guys down the board even
What about
pushing.
what about Keith Mitchell this week? Played well at almost won the tournament in LA.
Yeah.
So I think there's some obviously same designer and everything like that. I think his name's popped up with some okay play here lately. I mean, he's way down the board, but in a top 10 or top 20 market, do you think he can show up here and finish well?
I,
I don't know his U.S. Open history either, so
yeah, I don't
it's
either. And top 20 maybe. I looked actually looking at his data golf. His approach numbers are not real encouraging if you're looking for that second shot guy. I think he's an unbelievable driver of the ball. I think he puts well on Bermuda. Which this week it's is it Bent this week or is it Poa? The
well, since it's California, it's probably POA. I didn't actually look, but most likely POA.
but um he again he was on not a heater but a decent run of play earlier in the year, but he's just kind of making cuts barely and getting by. So I wouldn't feel great about Mitchell, but um Tom Kim at 160 to 1, but
Wow.
he has really cooled off from his run the end of last season. So yeah, I just don't have a strong feeling about any of these guys down here making a push besides Denny, who's shown some good form. I'm not like, normally Sam Burns at 75 would catch my eye. I just don't see it right now with his game just doesn't seem very sharp.
No, and it is hard to look at, you're looking at some of these guys and feeling, do they have a real legit shot at contending? Because it just does, it feels like those top guys there. Like you said, you could list a lot of these names and be like, wow, these numbers are crazy, but then you think about it and you're like, well, they're probably pretty appropriately priced. I know a guy
Right.
we've been big on is Tom Hoagie. You'd think this would be a good Tom Hoagie golf course.
Yeah.
200 to 1 on DraftKings. Um, that's a big number, but
Yep.
he's won a PGA Tour event before, and he can get around on the golf course really well, but he's kind of one of those streaky guys. I see your guys, Patrick Rogers and Luke List is 400 to 1, but I
That's disrespectful.
it
Uh,
is, but
it's probably not. No, I actually think Rogers is he's probably a better fit for this type of course. I but whatever. Yeah, I don't. I have to go. We'll go through it a little bit, obviously, before we make our official picks. And if there's anyone we like, they'll make the board there. But Yeah, to me, not a lot past that 50 number for actually winning, and then between 50 and 100, a couple of those guys, like you mentioned, top 10s and 20s. Like Fowler has been kind of an auto top 20 this year. He doesn't have a lot of top 10s, but he's been pretty good at the top 20, top 25 market. Just kind of, plays well on the weekend, makes his way up the board. Hasn't really threatened contention since the fall. Guys like Justin Rose, Corey Connors, Fleetwood. There's just nothing that I see there where I'm like, yep. After watching Tommy Fleetwood in that playoff today, he's going to win the U.S. Open. And in fact, now I feel more strongly he's not going to.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I think with having the extra day though from when this podcast is coming out, we'll have to look a little bit deeper at these because there's gotta be, there's always guys that you could kind of poke out and or pick out and they end up playing well. But you're right. I feel this is just gonna be the top of the board where you place your win bets and maybe you could make a little bit of money off of the top 10s and top 20s because this golf course is
yeah,
gonna test everybody and it's gonna be a freaking blast to watch and to see these guys play it. And I can't wait. This usually I'm excited about the Masters and all the majors in of itself, but just to see LA Country Club is going to be just phenomenal.
yeah. So on the bingo card this week with NBC doing the telecast. So the Barranca multiple times a day.
Yeah,
Max Homas from LA.
yeah,
Um, gosh, what else? I mean, Paul Azinger mentioning pressure on Saturday and Sunday at least a dozen times. He's so nervous he can't even spit. That kind of thing.
yeah.
Um, so some of the key things to follow as you're watching. So who wins?
Oh my God, I got to pick out a winner.
I'm
The
picking
winner.
I'm picking Scotty. Predictable.
Yeah, but you know, I like it because I got that I put that bet on him there. Winner of the 2023 United States Open. Oh my God, I forgot. Usually I'm thinking about this ahead of time and I'm just stalling right now by just kind of talking here.
Yeah, this is
Winner of the 2023 US Open, Brooks Koepka.
dramatic. What?
Brooks Koepka.
That came out of nowhere.
Brooks Koepka is going to win, and we're all going to be angry about it.
I'm kind of shocked. I did not see that coming. I really did not see that coming.
Actually, I really wanted to say Max Homa, but I don't.
Yeah.
The fact that he's done nothing in the major championships, I think Max is going to actually contend. I got the win bet on him, and I'm going to throw a top 10 bet on him as well because I think he's going to contend with the California thing. But I just seeing Kepka's look in his eye, it just
Hmm.
fucking dude's healthy and it's number 6.
Wow. Stunning. I did not see that coming. Pick not to win. I think we've been on a pretty successful run of these. You want to fly close to the sun on this, but not too close and get hurt like I did at the 2021 Open with Morikawa. So who's the pick not to win?
Pick not to win this week uh is John Rahm. That's a pretty big one.
That's a pretty big
I
one.
was gonna I could have copped out and said Rory because I talked about him, but nope. John Rahm, you can play him in whatever market. I'm not betting him to win.
That's a big one. My pick not to win is Rory McIlroy. And I'll give you a bonus one as well. Not that it counts for much, but Justin Thomas isn't going to win either. But you'd probably say that as well.
Um,
Not a surprise.
To, I'd pick Tony Finau as my other guy not to win.
Probably safe with that as well. Okay, heard it here first. 2023 U.S. Open at LACC should be spectacular. we'll have picks out this week. Johnny, thanks for joining on a Sunday night. Enjoy your week, sir.
Thank you. You too. Can't wait to watch.
Picks out Wednesday. We'll see if the lovely Zach Fitzgerald can be part of the picks as well for this third major of the year. Check us out on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. This should be the only podcast of the week. So enjoy the US Open. We'll catch you next time.